And this is precisely why I love Prodigal Son. This show can cram so much into one episode without making it feel inorganic, and I think that's very sexy of them. Before we start, subscribe to my channel for more Prodigal Son content and comment below how do you think this season is going to end. So, the episode starts with Malcolm at the Milton house having flashbacks of Eve. Ainsley comes in and asks Malcolm about Eve. Turns out Eve contacted Malcolm weeks ago to break up with him over voicemail. Ainsley asks him to play the recording in case he misinterpreted it, but no, he got it right. Eve did break up with him. And here we have our first OMG moment. Nicholas Endicott enters and have I mentioned I hate this guy? He introduces himself to Ainsley and talks about Jessica, and Ainsley's face says everything. I don't know why, but this scene reminds me a little of Gossip Girl, which I finished just yesterday. Anyway, Malcolm gets a call from Gil and he leaves. At the station, Malcolm notices everyone looking at him. Gil tells him that it is about Eve, and this poor boy thinks it's about their breakup, but it's our second OMG moment. Eve is dead. Suicide. Now, any veteran of a crime drama will tell you that Eve did not in fact commit suicide. She was definitely murdered. Malcolm goes to the morgue where Idrissa is examining the body and she doesn't know that it is Eve. Malcolm asks for any information she might have. She tells him that Eve died 2 weeks ago. From that, Malcolm deduces that she was murdered. He storms into Gil's office and demands to be put on the case. His exact words are, "I won't let you bench me, not this time." My dear Malcolm, when has benching you ever actually worked? Huh? You'd find another way in. Gil agrees and tells him that someone would have to tell Jessica. Malcolm goes back to the Milton house and Jessica is there with Nicholas. Once he leaves, Malcolm tells Jessica that Eve was murdered. Malcolm tells her how Martin warned them and they decide to go pay Martin a visit. So while I didn't like or dislike Eve, her being murdered is just not okay. She was looking for her sister and that is what got her killed. At Claremont, Jessica and Malcolm visit Martin, but he already has a visitor, Ainsley. Martin is excited for the family reunion as expected and gets all cheeky. Ainsley found out that the girl in the box used to work for Nicholas. Obviously, Jessica is horrified. Malcolm figures out Martin made a deal with Sophie for information. Martin tells them that it was about Nicholas. That explains why Martin got a sweet deal in his imprisonment. Ainsley asks why Jessica and Malcolm were visiting Martin. Malcolm informs them that Eve is dead. Martin reminds him that he warned Eve. Malcolm asks why he did that, and Martin changes the topic to let the past be in the past and just be a family. Jessica rightly flips out. She tells him that they are not a family. They are people who are tragically bonded to Martin by blood, and his children want answers. So he should give them that, or none of them would ever visit again. Ainsley and Malcolm confirm, and Martin tells them about what Sophie said. Nicholas's power, apparently, was to never let people say no. His empire was built on cruelty. He picked Sophie off the streets, and in return, she had to do whatever he wanted. Now, what Nicholas asked Sophie to do is yet unclear, which leaves an air of incompleteness over it. But it is implied that it might have been murder, since he says that it takes a special kind of a monster to turn someone else into one. Martin then mocks Jessica's love life and she asks Malcolm if what he is saying is true. It is. Martin insists that they would all stay away from Nicholas. It is at this point that you wonder, why is Martin Whitley, the surgeon, afraid of this guy? Malcolm guesses that Nicholas killed Eve, and Martin reminds him that Nicholas wouldn't have done it himself. And that leads Malcolm to conclude that there would have been an assassin involved. Malcolm believes that he can get the assassin to flip on Nicholas, and Martin demands that he do not do that, and says something wild to Jessica which I would not mention, because Martin Whitley is an ugly, fugly dude. Malcolm is back at the station and tells the team everything he knows. Idrissa informs them that she had gotten a call about why she hadn't finished her report on Eve. Malcolm admits that this is his one blind spot: profiling assassins. But lucky for everyone, Gil knows someone. They get a name, Nightingale, and the team goes to the train station when, in order to find the assassin, Malcolm, in true Malcolm Bright fashion, stabs the assassin's target. Relax, it's fake. They catch the assassin and they find out that she didn't kill Eve. She informs Malcolm that in order to make it look like a suicide, the assassin would have had to get to know Eve. We flashback to when Martin first got to Claremont and Nicholas asks him if he finds the place suitable. He then pours 2 glasses of red wine, and I don't know how to pronounce that name, but I've seen in the fandom that it is actually Aziraphale's favorite wine. Now, if they did it intentionally or not, who knows, but a reference to good omens is always welcome. Nicholas suspects that Martin suspects that the wine is poisoned. Nicholas tells him that it is not. In order to prove it, he takes a sip from both glasses. Nicholas tells him that this ends their transaction. In present time, Ainsley is spying on Nicholas and he figures it out. They have a talk. He believes that it is because Jessica has started dating him that Ainsley is following him. Ainsley tells him that she is very protective of her mother and that she wants to do a segment on him. He asks where he wants her career to go, and we see that inability to say no to him power in play. Despite the implications, I don't think for a second that Ainsley would betray her family. Despite her ambition, she loves her family. Malcolm and JT go to Eve's apartment. Malcolm has flashbacks. It's so jarring to see Malcolm genuinely smile like that. Malcolm's on Eve's bed and looks up, and there is a camera in the ceiling. Jessica talks about how she ended up choosing psychopaths twice. And yes, at this point the whole fandom was just telling her to look at the man right in front of her. So Gil tells her that there is nothing wrong with her and that there are other men out there. Jessica says that she had a chance with a good man and she blew it, and Gil says that they both did. Too bad, we missed our window, and then everyone was like, kiss already. The window is right fucking open. Then the looks at the other's lips just for a second and then back up happens, and I'm just waiting for them to kiss. I mean, God. A part of my brain is like, but in the promo they're standing, so this isn't it. And it wasn't, but oh my God, the acting, the emotions. Back at the station, Danny, JT, and Malcolm look through the CCTV footage of the building that Eve lived in, and Malcolm figures out that it was Martin's new guard that is the assassin. Let me mention, with Martin saying earlier that Mr. David is sick and his replacement being a literal assassin, if anything happens to Mr. David, I will boycott this show. I can love Martin and I can love Malcolm, but nothing can happen to Mr. David. I swear to God. So, Danny, JT, and Malcolm rush to Claremont and arrive just when Martin is being choked to death. And he's about to pass out when Malcolm calls him Dad, and now he has the strength to take on that assassin. He bashes the assassin's skull into the wall and then the floor, and then Oberyn martels him. Or would it be the mountains him? Anyway, the 3 get in and Martin is restrained and the assassin is arrested. Danny mentions JT by name and Martin's like, oh, so you are JT. Now I've met the whole team. Hi, I'm Martin Whitley. I knew this was coming, the joke, but it is so much fun nonetheless. The way Martin goes from serial killer gore to soft puppy happy to meet people is jarring and disturbing. Michael Sheen is amazing. Gil and Jessica are having fun talking about Malcolm, I think, and Gil gets up to leave. Jessica calls him and tells him why she let down Gil and why she said it was about how they had different worlds, but it wasn't. It was because Gil was getting close to Malcolm, and it was easier than admitting that she wasn't good enough for him. And Gil is like, you're good enough. And finally, they kiss. Everything that has been mentioned about Jessica's past makes me think that she would have kind of been like a Serena van der Woodsen type person, enjoying parties, the it girl that everyone was falling for. At the station, Danny tells Malcolm that the assassin is in a hospital under police custody. Malcolm has a meltdown about him only catching the middleman and not Nicholas. He then rushes out of there to the hospital where they are keeping the assassin, and we get a glimpse of Dark Malcolm, which is what I'm calling the Malcolm Bright who is very willing to murder. We go to the flashbacks, and up till now, I kind of liked Nicholas. He was the kind of guy you love to hate. You can appreciate his plans and manipulations and how he gets people to do the things he wants, despite him being such a terrible person. But after he was like, "I'll destroy you, Martin Whitley," and all that he said about Malcolm, Ainsley, and Jessica, I do not like him at all. He is absolutely gross. Ew. And yes, I know it's basically defending one serial killer against a sociopath, but you don't have all the facts, which are, I kind of like Martin more than I like Nicholas. Malcolm is back at his loft and he's seeing Eve in an ethereal dress. And all of a sudden, his door gets broken down by the police and Malcolm is like, "I work with the police." Gil, Danny, and JT enter and apparently the assassin is dead and Malcolm's DNA has been found at the crime scene. Nicholas is obviously starting to frame him and the episode ends at a confused Malcolm. Now, with Gil being basically a surrogate father to Malcolm, I have to assume that Gil had a key to the house, or he could have just knocked without bringing in a SWAT team, but he brings in a SWAT team. Not only does he bring in a SWAT team, he also breaks down Malcolm's door. I mean, talk about dramatic. Gil has been a part of the Whitley family for 5 seconds and he's already inherited their ability for drama. Next episode is the finale and it looks so good. Will Malcolm kill Nicholas to protect his family? Martin is being transferred to an actual prison. That'd be interesting. For a while now, I've been hoping that Martin somehow escapes. While that remains a dear dream of mine, I don't know how that would be achieved long term. Because after that, he'd probably have to die. So that can, not happen. Even if I want it to happen, it cannot happen. Hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next time. Sending love. Toodles!